So I need to tie this in with blood sugar regulation, okay? So if there's any issues with weight loss or weight gain and things like that, diabetes, blood pressure, gout, even people who've got problems with things like Alzheimer's and things like that, they're all linked. You know, I said before, just this talk, they're all the same metabolic dysfunctions. And a lot of it is the absence of all the things we need and eating the things which cause this problem. So our blood sugar should look like this. Okay, when we wake up in the morning, the first meal is called breakfast or break fast. You're fasted. That's technically what should happen. So we tell people to start with the premise of 3 meals a day. Okay, now not everyone needs that, but definitely the 3 meals a day plus 2 or 3 snacks. A snack is just a small meal. People are having 5 to 7 meals a day then. That's not ideal because actually whenever you eat anything, you do produce some insulin. And we don't want to be producing that all the time. Okay, but the rate at which we convert our blood sugars, etc., will change drastically. When we wake up in the morning, it's break fast, which means our blood sugars are relatively low. It's not so low that we couldn't do something. I mean, if you literally sort of had to get up and hunt and gather, you should be fine. You know, if you couldn't to start with, then something's not right. And it could be just you need to do the right things for a period of time. Okay, but it's break fast. Now, if you have, let's say, a bowl of cereal, and it's not one of the luminous ones, when the food goes into the stomach, you've got to convert it to blood sugar. Your body's got to break it down. So if I took, let's say, skim milk, which is just milk sugar, when there's nothing in there other than just the sugar, and I have that with one of the better quality cereals, okay, well, the liquid from the milk is already liquid. I haven't got a liquefied milk, it's been liquefied. The cereal, I can literally go, done, that's powder, not going to take long to break that down. And let's say I have that with a glass of orange juice or a slice of toast, your blood sugar is going to go absolutely through the roof. It's going to raise so fast, it's going to go up like that. And I don't care how many calories there are in that. It might be a 400 calorie breakfast, a very low calorie breakfast, but your blood sugars are going to go through the roof. And then what happens is, your body has to regulate that. Reality is, elevated blood sugar causes organ damage and death. Low blood sugar will go coma and death. So the body considers blood sugar regulation vital. Absolutely vital. It's very important. So the body's got all these mechanisms to keep it in a realm that keeps us alive and functioning. Okay, and every time we stress the system to keep it like that, we're causing problems. So when our blood sugars go through the roof like this on this low calorie breakfast, first thing your body's going to do is produce huge surges of insulin. Insulin is a hormone. For many people, it acts as a weight gain hormone because it has to lower that blood sugar. And unfortunately, it's not going to lower it to a nice level like this. It's going to crash it down. So it has different things. Insulin will lower the blood sugars by, in general, storing it in your fat cells. This is why people can be into a massive calorie deficit and be gaining weight. It's because of the blood sugars. You've got to factor that in. So what do people do when they count calories? Often they cut their fat out and their protein out and put all the wrong types of carbs in. So they're getting this. They're on hardly any calories a day, but they're getting this cycle. So insulin lowers blood sugar. Okay, it stores it in general in the fat cells, but it also you produce other things. So you produce leptin. Leptin is basically the satiety hormone. It tells you to stop eating. So you produce it. So stop eating. Come on, what are you doing to me? Calm down. So over time, your body's become less responsive to that. So we call that leptin resistance. And one of the things you'll hear, you know, if someone says to me, I never feel satisfied, it's they're leptin resistant. Or if someone says to me, I've got a sweet tooth. Sweet tooth is the layman term for a leptin resistance. That's what it is. That's what a sweet tooth is. Okay? But also, you break that down into different things. So one of the byproducts of that is uric acid. So the insulin lowers the blood sugars and it produces uric acid. You get leptin and you also get elevated triglycerides. Now, uric acid is what we link with gout. So anyone who's got any problems with gout must control that. They say it's the introduction of eating high purine foods. It's nonsense. Loads of vegetarians have got gout. It's nonsense. It's blood sugar handling. Every time your blood sugar spikes, you produce insulin, leptin, and one of the things it breaks it down into is uric acid. If that's accumulated in enough places, we call it gout, but a lot of people walk around with inflammation. Just inflamed tender joints, okay? Inflamed bowel, IBS, yeah? Sensitive skin. That's why people say they regulate blood sugar because their skin gets better. It's inflamed skin, okay? It's inflammation. Again, we said People take anti-inflammatories all the time. It's inflammation. And elevated uric acid is one of those. Uric acid does a number of things. It prevents the nitric oxide of the cells, so the arteries can't spring. It depletes your magnesium reserves, so your arteries will constrict. Okay, it will literally like spasm, drive your blood pressure up. Uric acid will cause fluid retention. It's trying to put you into a storage mode. This is why people start to get all these puffy joints, and they'll lose fat, but they'll gain water. Okay, so you have to regulate your blood sugars. How do we do that? It's eating the quality foods, so your immune system's not active. It's the right type of carbs, the proteins and the fats, not this sort of low fat, high carbohydrate type thing. So like I say, we've produced leptin to say stop eating. Okay, we've produced insulin to try to lower blood sugar. We've broken it down into uric acid, which is causing all sorts of things. It's driven your blood pressure up. It's gone crazy, but sometimes people feel good at that. That initial burst, feel good. Not for long though, not for long. I mean, an hour or two, you're going to be starving hungry because you've crashed down. Now you've got a problem. The body doesn't want it to go too low, so you're going to get lots of cravings to eat the wrong foods typically, or you're going to require stimulants. A little bit of sidetrack. There are things which can make your blood sugars go up and down and it not being food. Okay? Your body has to be able to produce energy or fuel without food sometimes. It's a survival mechanism. So if you was being attacked by a grizzly bear in the middle of the night and you haven't eaten because the hunts were unsuccessful, you've got to be able to run away. You can't run away just on magic fairy dust. You've got to be able to produce something. So the first thing the body does for fuel is it uses blood sugar. If you've got constant essentially glucose running through your bloodstream, it always will use that as a preferred source of fuel. Okay, once that's been used up, the body will use, it will break down glycogen, which is essentially stored blood sugar in generally the muscles and the liver and stuff. Once that's been used, it will use fat. Okay, very few people ever get into true fat metabolism. Anyone who's experienced of exercise, if they make no change to their diet and lifestyle and just try to burn off fat, it's incredibly difficult. Exercise doesn't really burn off fat as such unless you're doing ultra endurance. What it does is change your metabolism. So, your body has ways of raising blood sugar without food. It basically releases stored blood sugar, glycogen. Stimulants will do that, like caffeine will do that. Stress will do that. That's why people who don't eat all day but they're stressed out get these high blood sugars, because the body keeps producing this surge of adrenaline. Okay, so there's lots of things which can throw them off. But this is the cycle we have. Like a low-calorie breakfast, bash. Then a sandwich, which is not enough food to really keep a rabbit alive, but it's all very high in the wrong types of carbohydrates, starches and grains. Insulin, boom. Now, every time you produce insulin, the body is responding to that. The cells are responding to that at least. Over time, your body stops responding adequately, efficiently. You are now becoming insulin resistant. Insulin resistance for many years has been considered to be type 3 diabetes. And talked for a long time to call it that because it would help probably public awareness. So you are insulin resistant, which basically means your body's producing it all the time, it stopped responding to it. If you live near the motorway, very soon you sort of switch off to it. And that's what's happening. So the cells aren't responding to it, but the blood sugars stay high, so it produces more insulin. And it literally is that's a process of insulin resistance when they kind of go, now you're diabetic. That is diabetes. It's this mechanism of continually producing insulin all the time. Okay? So we can't have these spikes of blood sugar. So that's diabetes. Now if you want to reverse that, you have to get the body to stop producing insulin all the time, so it starts to become insulin sensitive, which is this, when you combine it with the right exercise and stress management, you become insulin sensitive. That's why most people can have major changes of diabetes within the first 3 months. Major changes, really quite extraordinary changes, by getting this right, you see. So it's that process. The leptin resistance, once your body stops producing leptin, the hormone to tell you to stop eating all the time, you can go without food. Now I'm not saying you should go without food, but if you didn't have your meal exactly at the same time and you was getting the shakes, your body is not in a good way. You should be able to cope with that. Okay? So this is where we want to balance things out. But we also need to bring the evening meal early enough forwards. Okay? Because when you've got your blood sugars like this, so this will be an example of why we need the fats, we need the proteins and so on. Let's say you had that steak and eggs. Again, quality, quality, quality. I always say that over and over. And you had that with like a handful of salad, like a big chunk of salad there. Your blood sugars would raise at a very different rate Very different rate, okay? Just think about it from common sense. A steak takes longer to break down in the stomach than cereal does, okay? Nothing there's liquid, it's got to break it down. The carbohydrates in the vegetables are very high in fibre. The fibre doesn't spike your blood sugars. It raises it a lot slower. So yes, it produces energy a little bit slower. You've got clean food, so your immune system doesn't have to kick in, but it raises that a little bit slower, but it doesn't spike it. And it just naturally starts to taper off. Then you have a meal around lunchtime. Again, just another meal. You know, meat, fat and vegetables. Plenty of variety. I mean, healthy food should be enjoyable, should be tasty. You need variety to get the best from it. And it starts to, it raises up again, it starts to taper off. When you have your meal, okay? And if you bring your meal forwards, what happens then is your body will go into that fat burning mode because it's had long enough from the last meal to the first meal. Essentially, that's a form of mini fast. People hear a lot about intermittent fasting, and there is a place for that, but you have to balance this first. Otherwise, all you'll have is low blood sugar, and your body will try to conserve energy, hence your thyroid function will drop. You have all sorts of problems, okay? The body's not going to like that. It doesn't want to go into hibernation mode. It wants to keep itself running. So that's why when people bring it forwards, overnight, because they've had the fats and the proteins, it's taken longer to drop down. It hasn't just crashed. Wake up with a headache, need some food, or quite often people wake up and need to go a wee. It's just because of low blood sugar. Because it went down, the body produced the cortisol adrenaline, raised it back up without you knowing it. You wake up and go, I might as well go a wee. Well, a lot of people wake up, okay? Not all, but that's a lot of reasons. But you have the fats and proteins to make the food last longer, and it starts to drop down. You go through your blood sugar reserves, you now go through your glycogen reserves, and you're going to fat metabolism. So you have to go through that. And all intermittent fasting is people train that, but sometimes they don't need the breakfast, they push it back a bit, so it's a smaller window. But you need to have a narrow enough window of time, but your body hasn't always got glucose running through it. Does that make sense, guys? But I mean, people used to work locally, didn't have, traditionally it was more, a lady was at home and making food, so you therefore had like 9 o'clock was breakfast, or 8 o'clock was breakfast, and lunch at 12 and 1, and then dinner sort of 5:30, and you didn't eat till the next day. And they ate enough fat in there, enough protein in it to control it. Okay? Without the fats and the proteins, you won't go long enough. Now, let's say you went the other extreme and you just only had meat and fat. Well, as far as I'm aware, none of you are from the Arctic, so we need other foods in there as well. If you did that, your blood sugar would raise like this. And you probably end up only having one meal a day. You'd go, couldn't think of anything else. But you'd have no energy. So yes, you'd be like, I'm really happy with the results. My blood sugars are better, my diabetes is gone now, or at least a lot better. I'm off my blood pressure pills, but I've got no energy. That's not good. That's why we need that mixture. So why you say it was a starting point, 3 meals a day with good quality proteins, good quality fats at every meal, and the right source of carbohydrates, i.e. the non-starchy vegetables. Now, coming back to what we said before, every time we eat, we do produce a little bit of insulin. So you had that period of time back in the 70s, 80s, where people were saying have sort of like 5 meals a day and a couple of snacks. I don't agree with that. I really don't. I say if you're having 3 meals a day, for most people they won't need a snack. If you occasionally need a snack, fine, but you shouldn't need loads of snacks. You should have enough food there. If you look at, there's some really good studies done on Japan, which they have, I think, the smallest, or if not one of the smallest rates of obesity. And one thing they don't do is snack. And their meal times are close enough together that there is at least a period of semi-fasting. Okay, so the body goes into that. And if you eat at a regular time, your body prepares for it. And it processes the food different. You eat in a relaxed way, your body digests. Okay, and it's easier to prepare when you know when you're going to eat. I'm not a big fan of people just saying, I only have pork chops on Tuesday and this sort of thing, but there was something by that. People were prepared. A lot of reasons why people make poor food choices is lack of preparation, being caught off guard. So like in our household, it's not that I never have a takeaway, but I just don't have it rare. It's just quite rare. We would never have a takeaway because we're not prepared. I think that's a bit of a poor excuse. Not having no food in the house, or we can't be asked to cook. I don't think that's a good reason. If we want one, we have one. We don't have the sort of the cakes and stuff in the house, but if I go out and I want one, I'll have one. Again, it's much more about being prepared, but stabilising his blood sugars. And that's why it says here, chronic exposure to insulin causes insulin resistance, diabetes, obesity, high blood pressure, fatty liver disease, and much more. And that's why we have to tie it in with those right foods.